In the dead of winter, as frost crept over alleyways and the night air sliced through worn jackets like blades, 13-year-old Jamal crouched in his cardboard fortress, his sanctuary from an indifferent world. The streets of downtown Chicago pulsed with life above him, the cityscape a dazzling constellation of lights. He could see through the openings of his makeshift shelter. To the world, he was another shadow, invisible and forgotten, but Jamal had dreams, a future beyond hunger and solitude. Huddled beneath layers of battered clothing, Jamal watched as the city breathed in its own rhythm. Bustling cars, hurried steps of the fortunate, the distant sirens that had become his nocturnal lullaby. Despite the chaos, an eerie calm enveloped him, a feeling like the eye of a storm, where tranquility is a brief prelude to an ever-returning tempest. Each day was carved from survival, his routine a constant struggle to fend off the encroaching cold and the despair that threatened to consume him. His meals were scavenged from sympathetic shopkeepers or retrieved from the forgotten recesses of a diner's dumpster. Life had programmed Jamal to recognize silver linings, a half-eaten sandwich here, a discarded coat there. Yet beneath the acquired knack for endurance, a deeper longing simmered, a yearning for meaningful change, fueled by the fragments of a childhood memory, warm and ethereal. On the frayed edge of consciousness, Jamal's mind often drifted to books he'd once loved, tales of heroes who found hope in hopelessness. The stories had been his escape in happier times, a window to adventures in boundless realms, far removed from the gritty alleys that now defined his existence. These narratives were more than just fables to Jamal. They were mirrors reflecting a life he aspired to reclaim, where bravery, honor, and love conquered the harshest of adversities. Yet, every night, reality returned him to this urban backdrop, where survival was a constant and silent battle. Jamal clung to the memory of his mother, an indomitable spirit who had always said, "Even the smallest light chases away the darkness." Those words were his beacon. She was a woman imbued with a quiet strength, her laugh echoing like a chime in the recesses of his mind, a melody of resilience. She had vanished one wintry evening much like this one, a casualty of an unforgiving world. Now, Jamal lay on a bed of crumpled newspaper, the ink smudged and illegible, speaking instead to human apathy than reported news. Above him, the wind whispered stories of its own, cold tendrils weaving through the night, challenging him as they had since that day he found himself truly alone. His small refuge, a space barely enough for his slight frame, had accumulated mementos of past months. A tarnished spoon, a photograph from a magazine of a place far more serene, and the richly colored autumn leaf he had picked up during a rare, unburdened walk through a park. These tokens told stories of survival, of fleeting beauty amidst hardship. They were reminders, too, of the moments his resolve hadn't faltered. The city's noise began to quieten, save for the soft crunch of snow underfoot. Jamal shifted, the cardboard rustling beneath him. As sleep threatened to take him, a consciousness lingered, a sharp, persistent hope that he could carve a place in this world unencumbered by the icy grip of poverty. An unshakable belief wrestled against the narrative of his current life, whispering that he was meant for something greater. He sat up, wrapping his arms tightly around his knees, drawing all the warmth he could from within. From an absently placed window came the calming glow of the street lamp, its light pooling golden on the snowy alley, containing no blissful warmth but, nonetheless, offering comfort to Jamal. Those occasional footsteps that passed near now began to dwindle as the city tucked itself away, leaving Jamal alone to the whims of the night. His thoughts wandered again, crafting scenarios where rescuing a lost pet might grant favor with a kind-hearted passerby, or where his quiet observation might lend aid to someone in distress, an opportunity that could transport him beyond these grim realities. For Jamal, fancy was not delusion, but rather a scaffold from where he constructed purpose amid adversity. The distant tolling of the city hall clock announced the late hour, shaking Jamal from his reverie, a reminder that tomorrow would demand from him yet another round in this ceaseless contest. Against cold, against hunger, against the whispers of doubt that could not help but occasionally intrude upon his imaginative daytime dreams. Yet, despite everything, he was not defeated. There was, he felt, something on the horizon, if only he could hold on to see it materialize. Thus resolved, he set his sights on rest, pulling the worn woolen blanket tighter around his shoulders. His eyelids grew heavy as the wind serenaded him, a gentle and indifferent guardian. His last conscious thought echoed in his mother's voice, about the small light that could always chase away darkness, and like a candle against a coming storm, Jamal decided to let it burn within him, small but defiant, daring the dawn to meet him on his own terms. The snowfall had begun in hesitant, swirling gusts, delicate as lace against a blanket of deepening gray. Jamal lingered on the edge of sleep, nestled in his accustomed corner beneath a bridge where luxury flirted transiently with destitution. Here, the streetlights cast elongated shadows, more tangible than the marginalized souls they overlooked. Despite the biting cold, the city carried on above, its pulses felt through the vibrations in the steel and brick beneath which Jamal huddled. Awakened from his reverie by an unfamiliar sound, the meandering tires of a vehicle edging impossibly close, Jamal's instincts snapped him to full alertness. He peeked from his shelter to see a sleek, black luxury sedan sliding perilously on the ice-laden pavement, coming to a jagged halt mere feet away from his sanctuary. The combination of cold and curiosity stirred his vigilance as he watched a scene unfold that would irreversibly alter the fabric of his life. Jamal's heart sped up as he saw a man, suited but disheveled, struggling within the confines of the driver's seat. His skin pale and drawn, the man clutched at his chest with a grave expression that struck fear into the boy's heart. Recognition flickered at the edges of Jamal's mind. This was Mr. Langford, a name synonymous with the steel towers looming over the skyline, often featured in the business sections of discarded newspapers he'd perused. Jamal felt time splinter around him. The city's cacophony faded, replaced by the roar of urgency in his chest. Throwing caution to the wind, he leapt from his retreat, his meager possessions forgotten. He skidded to the car, the biting air forgotten as he pounded on the window, trying to penetrate the glass's artificial frozen shimmer. His immediate worry was pressing, averting his gaze from the anonymous passerby to the distressed man trapped within luxury's cocoon. It was as if all the stories he had read, every tale where a boy of his age became a hero, were whispering to him now as if to guide his actions from some otherworldly manuscript where heart and courage were the only commanders. Sir, are you okay?" Jamal shouted, knowing full well the impotence of words against the pain between them. Yet, his eyes locked with Mr. Langford's, a silent dialogue imbued with fear and urgency. One hand fumbled as Mr. Langford sought his phone with trembling fingers, but let it slip between the unreachable crevice of seat and console. His eyes, wide with the onset of panic, mirrored Jamal's resolute decision, to act swiftly or forever regret inertia. Jamal wasted no further time. Yanking the car door open, surprised at the fortune of its unlocked state, he took hold of the phone and dialed for help, each click of the buttons a beat in the rhythmic mantra ingrained since his mother's departure. As he relayed the dire situation to the operator, his resolve hardened. Through relentless breaths in the regularity of stress, Jamal maintained a connection to Mr. Langford, grounding them both in a moment suspended between hope and peril. "Help is coming," Jamal said, voice firm and soothing above the whip of cold wind threading between them. His eyes flicked across the man's perspiring brow, and he reached into the car for anything that might offer warmth, a coat, a discarded cover, but finding nothing but tailored emptiness. Mr. Langford exhaled a pained breath. "Thank you," he whispered, a breathless interlude laced with gratitude, even as agony pulled at the corners of his mouth. His eyes slid over Jamal, taking in the kid's smallness clad in oversized layers, the steel-spined courage evident despite trembling hands. As if seeking to mirror bravery with action, Jamal fetched his own threadbare blanket, draping it over Mr. Langford with the kind of care his mother once showed him when tucking him into bed. It wasn't much, but it was what he had, and right now, sharing was all that mattered. Finally, the staccato wails of an ambulance horned into the sensory world of their crisis. Flashing sirens painted murals of red and blue over the white canvas of snow and urban steel. Paramedics, like angels of deliverance, poured out into the night with familiar efficiency, skilled hands finessing Mr. Langford onto a stretcher, their practiced murmurs a balm of professional reassurance. As Mr. Langford was eased away, one of the paramedics turned, tossing Jamal an appraising but respectful nod. "You did good, kid," came a voice strong as steel yet tempered with warmth. The words wrapped around Jamal like an unexpected caress, the formal recognition sparking a nascent pride he hadn't felt in longer than he could remember. Standing in the wash of emergency lights, their stark glow a radiant contrast to his usual shadows, Jamal watched the ambulance recede into obscurity, Mr. Langford carried within like a fallen king cradled by gallant knights. Solitude rushed back to fill its vacant space, the cold once more his sole companion. Yet something had shifted irrevocably within Jamal, a seed of agency, a future formed from the crucible of adversity. It was as if a circuit somewhere had closed, connecting a lifeline between forgotten humanity and dignified legacy. Jamal lingered a moment longer in the luminous afterglow, promises unmade and undreamed weaving their narratives under the bridge where judgment fell silent. Retrieving his possessions with newfound dedication, Jamal realized the night had indeed transformed, if not the world, then certainly his world. With resolve reborn from daring, he turned toward the city, each step on the snow-padded street an echo of his mother's wisdom, a small light chasing vast darkness. Where fate might lead him next, he had yet to know. But for Jamal, action begot hope, momentum changed destiny, and this chance encounter was merely an introduction to the greatness quietly calling from the yawning future. Golden dawn's light danced across sterile hospitalscape walls as Jamal's eyes fluttered open to the unfamiliar ache of warmth and safety enveloping him like an impossible dream. He blinked against the soft blur of overhead fluorescence, taking in the white room, a space cleansed of the harsh realities he'd known. Everything felt surreal, the gentle rhythm of his pulse whispering promises of something profoundly different, something transformative. A soft cough redirected his thoughts, pulling Jamal's attention to the door where a woman, her tailored suit and kind demeanor standing as testament to her professionalism, awaited. Her presence seemed to fill the room, carrying with her an unexpected gravity. "Good morning, Jamal," she began, her voice carrying a practiced blend of confidence and warmth. "I'm Angela, Mr. Langford's assistant." Good morning," Jamal replied cautiously as he rearranged himself in the bed, the weight of her gaze prompting a surge of unaccustomed self-consciousness. His world was suddenly populated with figures of importance who had never before crossed the threshold of his existence. "You're quite the hero," Angela continued, allowing the corners of her lips to quirk into a respectful smile. "Mr. Langford wishes to see you when you're ready." Hero. The word tasted foreign, like something polished and unfamiliar. Jamal was accustomed to cloaking himself in shadows, not emerging into the light of a lauded role. 1,000 questions curled within him, curiosity mingling with anticipation, yet restraint tempered his eagerness. Would he see the man whose life fell into his hands by chance? What would this exchange hold? Gratitude, acknowledgement, or perhaps disdain for the presumed charity case at the heart of it? Accepting Angela's invitation with a nod, Jamal was soon guided down impeccably polished corridors, each step echoing like a rhythmic announcement of his new reality. As they approached Mr. Langford's room, Jamal paused, nerves gathering beneath his skin like storm clouds. His heart expanded in a diffuse mixture of fear and hope. Angela gently pushed open the door, and Jamal found himself within the walls of a room filled with quiet authority. Mr. Langford lay amidst a symphony of beeping monitors, his presence commanding despite the fragility of recovery draping him like armor poorly fitted for this battle. "Come in, Jamal," Mr. Langford beckoned, his voice resonating with a mixture of admiration and appreciation, a far cry from the vulnerability that had surged between them on the icy street. Jamal stepped forward, careful, tentative, feeling the gravity of the moment encircle him like a cloak. "How are you feeling, sir?" he queried, unsure how to navigate the conversational waters between them. "Weary, but remarkably grateful," Mr. Langford replied, a wry smile playing over his lips. "Thanks to you. The doctor said a heart attack would have stolen my days if you hadn't acted so decisively." Jamal shifted from one foot to another, the acknowledgement washing over him with a tidal force. I just had to help. I couldn't just leave you there. Your actions saved my life. A debt that bears no easy equivalent, Mr. Langford mused, his expression softening as he took in Jamal's slight form and determined stance. Tell me, Jamal, what brought you to my side that night? The question was simple yet profound, probing the marrow of his motivations, the existential anchors of a boy who had lived for so long navigating society's peripheries. I don't know, Jamal began, hesitating as he encountered the grounding honesty within himself. I've always dreamed of making a difference, of finding purpose beyond just surviving, he confessed. And when I saw you in need, I couldn't ignore it. Mr. Langford nodded thoughtfully, the glint in his eyes betraying a profound contemplation. He had seen and commanded power in many forms, but here lay before him a different significance, a boy worn by trials yet wielding immense spirit. You have heart, Jamal, Langford acknowledged, his words weaving a binding thread between two disparate souls. I would like to help you find where that can take you. Hardly daring to believe, Jamal felt the seams of his expectations unravel at the prospect of unstinting opportunity. His heart, once fortified by reluctance and tempered distrust, opened archaic doors to new aspirations. Angela will make the necessary arrangements, Mr. Langford continued, his direction tempered with care rather than imposition. I want you to have a place with us, home and education, a framework to nurture your potential. In those moments, gratitude rose unfettered within Jamal, a geyser erupting from the silence of his overlooked existence, breaking free into light. He had seen countless dreams wither in the face of despair, yet promise now gleamed within reach, defined not by ignorance but possibility. Thank you, sir, Jamal managed, voice trembling with emotion contained too long, inches from tears unshed through countless winters. Mr. Langford regarded him with paternal pride, as if heralding the emergence of a worthy heir. Thank you, Jamal, he echoed softly, grasping within their shared ordeal a mirror reflecting untapped potential, not only for the young but the yesterday-weary man resolved to journey anew. As Jamal left the room, Angela by his side speaking reassurances as architects of his burgeoning future, he realized this connection, the unexpected confluence of life's currents, had forged within him resolve unyielded by circumstance. With courage born from midnight and discovery, he was ready to embrace whatever lay beyond, a young knight ready to face both steel giants and rose-tinted dawns with adventure seeding his soul. If fate preserved space for redemption in its intricate tapestries, surely it had laid the foundation for his own remarkable narrative. Golden dawn's light danced across sterile hospitals' cape walls as Jamal blinked into consciousness, the soft blur of overhead fluorescence welcoming him to a realm of safety he could scarcely believe real. An unfamiliar ache, a sweet, buoyant foreignness, wrapped him in warmth, starkly contrasting the roughness of his recent nights. He shifted slightly, testing the depths of this newfound comfort, before sighing deeply, allowing himself a moment to exist in this gentle calm before reality demanded his attention. His wandering thoughts were gently interrupted by a soft cough, a practiced sound that seemed to resonate with purpose. Jamal's attention was pulled to the doorway where Angela stood, her tailored suit a badge of professionalism, exuding an aura of command tempered with kindness. She radiated a presence that shifted the room's atmosphere, hinting at larger-than-life possibilities that lurked just beyond Jamal's current understanding. Good morning, Jamal, Angela began, her voice a blend of authority and warmth, carefully calibrated to put him at ease. Jamal responded with cautious politeness, familiar with navigating societal scripts but unaccustomed to this particular stage. An air of weight hovered above them, a threshold he knew he was about to cross, yet with little idea where it might lead him. Angela's words spoke volumes beyond their literal meaning. You're quite the hero. Mr. Langford wishes to see you when you're ready. Hero. The concept was overwhelming, more a crown of thorns than a laurel wreath to Jamal, whose life was defined by shadows and scarcity. He took a breath, questions playing across his tongue yet kept wrapped within, restrained by a lifetime of taught caution. To become, overnight, the centerpiece of someone else's gratitude felt both dizzying and daunting. A nod sufficed as his acknowledgement of her message, and Jamal soon found himself shepherded through a winding maze of corridors, their clinical efficiency and gleaming sterility alien yet invigorating. The journey felt surreal, his footsteps affirming this new path with echoes that whispered through the air, promising transformation with every step. They arrived at Mr. Langford's room, a space that hummed with subdued authority. Jamal paused at the threshold, his heart swelling with a cocktail of anticipation and fear, a storm of emotions coursing through his nervous system. Angela nudged the door open, revealing Mr. Langford amidst a tableau of silent monitors, their rhythmic beeps underscoring the scene. "Come in, Jamal," Mr. Langford's voice called out, strength and warmth offsetting the fragility imposed by his recent ordeal. There was no mistaking the respect in his gaze, nor the unique camaraderie that bounded them both to the previous night's events. Jamal navigated the room with care, each step a testament to the gravity of this pivotal meeting. He stopped a respectful distance away, mustering a smile that felt almost hesitant in its sincerity. "How are you feeling, sir?" The query was simple, yet loaded with layers of concern and genuine curiosity. "Weary, but remarkably grateful," Mr. Langford responded, the humor in his words mirrored by the twinkle in his eyes. "Thanks to you." Langford delved into the details, recounting how Jamal's quick-thinking intervention had quite literally saved his life. As the magnitude of his actions crystallized through Langford's narrative, Jamal felt his breath hitch slightly, the weight of gratitude settling in unexpected ways. I had to help," Jamal confessed, humility threading through his words. "I couldn't just leave you there. It wouldn't have been right." Langford's expression softened, and Jamal sensed a reflective quality in his demeanor. "Your actions saved my life, a debt that bears no easy equivalent," Langford admitted. His gaze pierced through the surface of Jamal's vulnerability, anchoring in the depths of the young man's tenacity and raw spirit. "What brought you to my side that night, Jamal?" The question, though straightforward, felt like an exploration of his soul, prompting him to sift through the myriad motivations that propelled him through life's turbulent seas. Deep down, he unearthed the core truth of his actions. "I've always dreamed of making a difference," Jamal began, each word a brushstroke of his internal landscape. "Finding purpose beyond just surviving, it's always mattered to me. And when you needed help, it felt like something I was meant to do." A thoughtful nod greeted him, Langford's smile a bridge stretched across the canyon of their disparate lives. The moment balanced on this exchange, possibility kindling like a spark ready to ignite. "You have heart, Jamal," Langford observed, his voice turning the phrase into both compliment and recognition. "Let's see where that can take you." Barely daring to dream yet breathing in the hope it brought, Jamal felt the seams of his former expectations fray, replaced by a tantalizing vision of the future. His heart, long guarded and burdened by distrust, now opened slightly to envision a path filled with potential rather than hardship. "I'd like to help," Langford continued, determination wrapped in compassion. "I want you to have a place with us, a home, an education, and a chance to nurture your potential." Jamal's stomach fluttered with an unfamiliar but welcome feeling. Gratitude, fierce and untamed, surged from the depths of him, a rush of emotion that left him almost breathless with its intensity. It was an emotion he'd imagined in stories but experienced rarely, if ever, in reality. "Thank you, sir," Jamal managed to say, his voice a weaving of tremors and unwavering sincerity, emotions straining towards a horizon of hope. His eyes glistened, a testament to resilience and rebirth. Mr. Langford's gaze held a paternal pride, as if recognizing the emergence of a potential long awaited. In that moment, within shared silence and mutual acknowledgement, a partnership of purpose forged its first bond. Outside, daylight spilled unabashedly across the corridors, an unyielding reminder of the vastness of opportunity that lay ahead. As Angela guided him from the room, her voice weaving assurances and outlines of the future they would build, Jamal realized with stunning clarity that this act of kindness, forged from a single choice to reach out rather than turn away, had become the keystone of his new narrative. It was a story of redemption and light, woven not from the fabric of charity but of justice and mutual growth. With fresh resolve kindling his spirit, Jamal understood that with courage nurtured in shadows and sheer willingness to step into possibility, he was now armed to face the unknown, each step an epilogue to his own tale of survived trials and dawn-lit beginnings. In this pivotal chapter, Jamal stepped beyond survival's confines, eager to embrace the challenges and triumphs sown in their wake, ready now to write his own narrative of light emerging triumphantly from darkness. As Jamal walked through the polished doors of his new school, a strange mix of excitement and trepidation weighed on his shoulders. The building loomed tall against the Chicago skyline, a looming edifice of opportunity and challenge. Despite the newfound privilege of scholarship and stability kindly extended by Mr. Langford, Jamal was acutely aware that this environment was foreign terrain, a battlefield of perceptions and expectations he would have to navigate with careful precision. On the outside, Jamal appeared composed, his posture upright and determined as he walked through halls lined with unfamiliar faces. Yet beneath his calm facade, a storm of self-doubt threatened to pull him under. Whispers marked his passage, some curious, others disdainful. Although the school's young inhabitants hailed from families of affluent means, none had shared Jamal's past hardships. The murmurs of being a charity case echoed in his mind, a simultaneous sting and motivator that ignited his resolve. Jamal cast his gaze downward, focusing on the polished marble floors beneath his feet. He recalled Mr. Langford's words of encouragement, spoken just days before. "This is your chance, Jamal. Show them not where you're from but who you are." With that mantra in mind, Jamal steeled himself against the judgmental glances and occasional sneers. Aware that his endurance would be tested not just socially but academically, Jamal dove into his studies. He pored over textbooks late into the night, a lamp his only source of light, determined to prove his capacity for growth in this daunting environment. His passion for knowledge, once fed only by sporadic reads snuck from street-side libraries, now flourished under structured guidance. The clarity of purpose granted by Mr. Langford's faith in him manifested in his relentless pursuit of success. Despite his dedication, the gap between his street-learned resilience and academic prowess became apparent in the classroom setting. In the first weeks, Jamal wrestled with shame and frustration as certain subjects, without the context provided by privileged tutoring, seemed insurmountable mountains. But Jamal was no stranger to adversity. With each small victory, a solved equation, a well-spoken presentation, his confidence swelled bit by determined bit. He started attending extra sessions, guided by teachers like Ms. Martinez, his history teacher, whose genuine encouragement ignited further determination. Her belief in his potential, conveyed through patient tutoring and supportive feedback, was both a balm and a beacon. "Jamal, remember that every great figure we study faced trials," Ms. Martinez said, offering a kind smile as they finished another session. "The strength in overcoming them is what makes their stories stand out." Buoyed by support from mentors like her, Jamal engaged more deeply with his peers, finding pockets of friendship and understanding amidst initial wariness. He joined clubs and participated in activities that aligned with his interests. The debate club, with its lively exchanges and intellectual challenges, became a particularly effective outlet for his growing confidence. It was here that Jamal began to voice his thoughts, expressing his viewpoint on topics with the same passion that had gripped him in the alleyway the night he met Mr. Langford. Through these interactions, Jamal discovered not just camaraderie but a shared humanity. Stories exchanged with new friends revealed hidden depths behind the polished exteriors of his classmates. Some had faced their own battles, pressure from family expectations, struggles with identity, or the isolating lure of addiction masked by wealth. Such connections, steeped in mutual understanding, began to forge bonds stronger than material divisions, allowing Jamal to step outside the shadows of his own fears. Yet the road was not void of setbacks. Jamal soon learned the double-edged nature of his unique story, a past often glamorized and exploited by a society eager for feel-good narratives. After reluctantly agreeing to speak at a school assembly, Jamal found his story sensationalized in local media, painting him as a sob-story success without credit given to his community or the ongoing struggles faced by those he left behind. This distortion stung deeply and introduced a fracture in his newfound identity. Was he now merely an example, a play in the tales spun by others for their own purposes? The realization was both humbling and clarifying, reminding Jamal of the early promise he had made to himself, to inspire change, not as a lone hero, but as part of a broader fabric of resilience reverberating from streets familiar and foreign. Following weeks of introspection and countless heart-to-heart discussions with Mr. Langford and Ms. Martinez, Jamal approached the school's charity board. With Langford's backing, he proposed a project that resonated with his deepest convictions: a scholarship fund aimed at providing educational opportunities for underprivileged youth, overseen by mentors who could guide and uplift without romanticizing their struggles. Guided by the principle that real change arises from empowerment, not pity, Jamal devoted himself to establishing this initiative, thriving through the synergy of action, community, and self-discovery. The project gained momentum, and with it, a fortified sense of self, a Jamal who had reconciled the boy he had been with the young man he was becoming. As the school recognized his efforts, Jamal's narrative shifted from one of survival to one of impactful change. Years later, during his graduation ceremony, Jamal stood before peers, faculty, and new friends, an emblem of resilience, redemption, and infinite potential realized. His speech, a testament to triumph forged through trial, resonated with all present. It was an ode to perseverance, the art of transforming trials into stepping stones toward a future illuminated by hope. In the ensuing applause, Jamal glimpsed Mr. Langford in the audience, whose patient guidance had been the compass steering him through tumultuous seas. Their eyes met, and in that enduring moment of shared understanding, the world felt rife with possibility. As Jamal stepped from the podium into his future, he carried with him the promise of beginnings, woven with the threads of his journey, a testament to the power of a dream nurtured by the light found in selfless, unwavering belief. On a bright spring morning, Jamal awoke to the sounds of chirping birds and the distant hum of a bustling Chicago. It was graduation day, a milestone he once feared he'd never reach. As he slipped into his modest, neatly pressed suit, each button felt like an echo of his mother's hopes and Mr. Langford's unwavering faith. Standing before the mirror, he practiced his speech, the same one written by lamplight through quiet evenings of reflection, a testament to his journey from forgotten boy to resilient young man. The ceremony took place in a grand auditorium whose ceilings arched like the aspirations of every student present. As faculty, families, and friends filled the room, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Jamal's heart pounded, a rhythmic reminder of the day's significance. His hand grazed the worn photograph of his mother tucked safely in his pocket, her ever-present guidance reinforcing his resolve. Seated in the front row, Mr. Langford offered a reassuring nod, his face a map of every step Jamal had taken since that fateful encounter beneath the bridge. Jamal drew strength from Langford's steady gaze, knowing their shared story encapsulated more than personal change. It was about justice, the invisible fabric stitching hope into the lives of many who remained unseen. The principal's voice rang clear, calling Jamal to the stage. His classmates cheered, the sound carrying him across the polished wooden floor to the podium. The auditorium hushed, and for a moment Jamal paused, allowing himself to feel the weight of every hardship, the triumph interwoven with each trial. He began his speech, his voice strong and steady. Esteemed educators, friends, and esteemed guests, today I stand before you not just as a graduate, but as a testament to the power of compassion and resilience. My journey was paved with challenges vastly different from most of my peers, yet these very challenges have shaped me in ways I could never have imagined. Years ago, I lived on the streets of this city, defined only by circumstance, a faceless figure in a world that seemed too vast and too cold. But it is within shadows that we discover light, and it was through an act of kindness by Mr. Langford that I was offered a chance to change my destiny. Jamal's eyes found Langford's in the crowd, and the gratitude he felt was palpable, a silent thank you exchanged in that brief connection. Today, I don't celebrate alone, Jamal continued, his words taking on a fervent tone. I stand here with the memories of the friends and allies left behind, not forgotten but woven into the very fabric of who I have become. And for them, for my mother, and for those like me striving to be seen, I dedicate my future. As he spoke, his mind flickered back to the inception of the scholarship fund, an audacious dream scoffed at by some but embraced by others who, like Jamal, believed in sustainable change. A project born from heart-to-heart meetings with mentors and friends, a venture emboldened by Langford's fervent advocacy and compassion, the fund had begun to blossom, helping students just like Jamal find their footing. Facing his audience again, Jamal shared, "Our scholarship fund wasn't founded just to provide education, but to offer mentorship and nurturing, proving that beneath every label lies potential waiting to be ignited." His words, laden with history and hope, resonated throughout the hall, painting a vivid path of where he had been and where he intended to go. A young man defined by defiance against the odds, determined to uplift others as he had been uplifted. The auditorium erupted in applause, sweeping across the room like the first breath of spring warmth, washing over him in waves of release. Each clap seemed to dissolve the stigma of his past, affirming his place not just among them but among the broader spectrum of humanity. As Jamal stepped down from the stage, he was enveloped by a group of friends, their embraces genuine and affirming, the bonds forged through shared experience and mutual respect. It was here, surrounded by these connections, that Jamal felt the balance between past and future firmly align. Later, as the graduates streamed out into the courtyard, clad in their robes and laden with ambitions unfettered by expectation, Jamal paused beneath the vast azure sky, a sky brimming with dreams yet realized. Here he found Mr. Langford, waiting with pride etched into every smiling line of his face. "Jamal," Langford said warmly, extending a hand before pulling him into a hug, "I knew from the moment we met that you'd transcend the barriers life placed before you. You've done more than make me proud. You've set a path others will follow." Jamal nodded, the emotion swelling between them, a timeless acknowledgement of their shared journey and the mountains yet to conquer. "There's still so much more to do," Jamal replied, his eyes scanning the horizon with newfound determination. "This is just the beginning. Together, we'll forge a world where every promise of potential is given the chance to shine." As they stood there, the crowd dispersing around them, Jamal felt a profound clarity. This was his world now, one he'd helped shape with every decision, each choice rooted in the lessons of his past. Justice, redemption, and resilience guiding him forward, a light ever chasing away the darkness as his mother once envisioned. With a final look at the prosperous future ahead, Jamal's resolve cemented like the mortar of a bridge reaching toward limitless possibility, driven by the unwavering belief in himself and the enduring power of grace given and received.